Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hopefully, you guys are doing absolutely amazing. I just wanted to really take you guys through my trade that I took today, why I took it, what went well and what didn't. I actually took two trades today. So, without further ado, let's get it. Let's go. And I also just want to do a top-down analysis on this trade as well, specifically. So, obviously, the markets are closed now. It's currently 8:27 p.m. So, for reference, the trade, the trades that I took today were on NAS100, just because I personally did not like the way SPX was moving. But yeah, after I explain this trade, we'll link this trade and SPX. We'll look at them side by side just so you can get a better understanding of what I was looking at and basically why I didn't trade SPX today and why I chose to trade NAS today instead. So basically, for starters, I do a top-down analysis on the trades for the day. So as you can see, these are my zones. So these are places that price could play into. So that's why I have them marked up on the charts. If you want to know more about that, there is a video that I made probably during the beginning of this year on support and resistance. You can definitely feel free to go through that video as well. But basically, over here, what you can see is the daily candle, right? And then here's an imbalance. Some people call this a fair value gap. But basically, it's a price point where there's no wicks in between the candle, right? And it's basically essentially a gap in the market that the market can potentially come back to at another time in order to fill it or play off of it. So I've seen that there was a really big gap on the daily time frame. This is important because the higher the time frame, the stronger the structure. So I knew there was a daily gap, a daily bullish imbalance on the daily time frame, right? So I knew that there was this imbalance here. And I knew that if the market was only going to wick into it, right, then the market would necessarily want to go up and continue going upwards. So it kind of came back this way to retest it on the daily time frame. And that was a part of my decision making with my trade. Now let's go down towards the other time frames as well. On the 8-hour, it stands clear. You can still see that zone as well. You won't really see the same zone when I talk about it. But on the 4-hour, the zone is about from here to here, give or take. Pretty big zone that we have there. But let's go over the trade that I did take. I'm going to go down slowly in time frames just so that you can see it a lot better with your eyes and everything. So basically, we're going to go to the 1-hour just so everything is a lot more clear. So we also have a really big fair value gap on the 1-hour / imbalance on the 1-hour as well. And then as you can see, we were in a downtrend for a long time. Like we were in a downtrend from Wednesday at 12 p.m. So you would probably be wondering, okay, Vaniece, why did you take buys? Let's go over it. Let's break down this trade real quick. But basically, we had the fair value gap, right? And the market is usually imbalanced, and the market usually likes to come back and fill at least 50% of most fair value gaps. So with me knowing that, and also knowing that we had a fair value gap down here that the market has respected and been respecting since 9 a.m., I lied, since 7 a.m., right? I knew it's going to be very hard for the market to break this particular level. So with that in my mind, I went down to the 30-minute. I was looking at the 30-minute as well. We still had pretty clear structure. We were bearish. So in order for me to be bullish on a particular position, right, I need something called a change of structure. And I'm basically going to break that down for you as well. I'm just going to come over to the 5-minute. I did end up taking this trade on the 2-minute just because the 2-minute is a lot better. But I'm going to break down what I seen on the 5-minute basically first. And then from there, after I break it down, what I'll do is I'll go to the 2 minute and I'll explain my entry, why I got in, why I lost, and why I won the second trade. So as we can see, we're technically in a downtrend since we were around right here. So we're right here. That's a higher high from Thursday, right? We pushed down, and instead of it being a higher low like we did here, we ended up breaking structure. And I always say this, and I think it's very important to see and pay attention to every time we break structure. And this is something that I failed to do today, was wait for a pullback / a retest, right? We broke structure here. So the average person's thinking, okay, cool, perfect. We broke structure. We created a lower low, meaning now instead of us being in an uptrend, we are now in a downtrend. So I'm not looking for buys anymore. I'm now looking for sells. But the average person would have got in here and their stop loss would have been hit because the market would have came back up to retest that area before continuing downwards, right? So obviously, this is at 5 p.m. I don't think anybody would be trading at 5 p.m. I hope not. But just the grasp of everything, right? You would wait for the market to come back and pull back up before coming down to complete the move. But basically, same concept. So as you can see, we have a lower low here, a lower high. Now here, we didn't break structure. We created a higher low. We created an equal low, my bad, equal low. So equal low basically means that this low is equivalent to the same low that we had here. We played around in this structure here. And then I believe there was news at 7:15 a.m. about Trump. I'm going to see if I could see it here for you guys. Why can't we have nice things? Fresh Trump tariff tantrum sends stocks tumbling. So keyword was tumbling, right? I like to look at the news as well to basically get a grasp of why I would take this trade in XYZ. But as you can see, sends news tumbling. This was 10 hours ago. But that news basically came out somewhere around here at like 7 a.m. because normally the markets don't move this quickly. So if you were awake and you were able to catch it, you would have caught the move all the way towards the downside. But that's pretty much that. So we've seen a lot of bearish momentum at 7 a.m. And oddly enough, look at this. We came here, we retested this area before we continued to drop down, right? So you could have taken this move on the way down if you were awake that early. But we had a lower low here. We had a lower high up here. We created a new lower low. This is known as a lower high right here because we're still maintaining that bearish structure. And then we broke all the way through it, creating a new lower low over here. And then the market started to retrace a bit. You had a lower high here, technically. You had a lower low, well, equal. You had an equal low over here. So my thoughts when I was looking for this particular trade was, okay, cool. This is what we did for the night, right? This is the news that we had with Trump. I always say news is the excuse. This is the news that we had with Trump. Cool. Where could I potentially see the market going? So I had two scenarios that I wanted to see fully play out, right? If I'm going to take a bullish trade, if I'm going to take a bearish trade, I want to see the market prove to me that it wants to actually continue going up, right? So as I said, we had a lower low, we had a lower high here, but the market is starting to show signs that it wants to potentially break structure. So over here, we see the market pull up and we had a change of structure. Now you might ask, Vaniece, why is that a change of structure? Well, because we have a lower high here of the market coming down here like this or going up a bit and going like this and retesting to continue lower, right? We created a higher low. So this is a higher low, meaning that we had the market change structure. As you get better at looking at it, you'll start to realize, okay, cool, we changed structure, da-da-da. Once you train your eyes to fully see it. But basically, if you were to go down to even a lower, if you were to change the candlesticks to a line chart, it would help you distinguish it a lot better, right? We have basically equal lows here, which is kind of liquidity. Like the market will come back and take this at some point. But anyways, so we had the change of structure right about here. So this is where I messed up and got into my first trade. However, so we are supporting the daily fair value gap at the very bottom of this area, right? And I'm just going to change this back to the candlesticks right quick. We are supporting this area at the bottom, but as you can see, if I go over here, right? And I'm going to zoom down to the 2 minute so it makes it a lot better for you to see and fully grasp. The 2 minutes just a lot better for scalping, so figured it might as well. But you can see the change of structure and everything fully play out, right? So we never created a lower low, which means the market no longer wants to stay in a downtrend, right? There's a higher chance / probability that the market will continue going up instead. So as you can see over here, this is where the change of structure happened. We created a higher high right here when we broke structure out of the downtrend. And then as you can see, right, this is where I got into my first potential trade. I got into my first trade right here. Once we broke structure, I said, okay, cool. But I always say this, whenever the market makes a higher high or whenever the market makes a lower low and we have broken structure, the market usually likes to come back to that area. And this is called a retest, right? This is just to prove like, okay, cool, you know, we did actually break structure, but it creates a higher low / a pullback. Higher low / pull back. Just to prove that the market actually wants to go where it wants to go. And this is where I messed up with my first trade. So the first trade that I took was about right here. Once we broke there at 933-ish, 935, around there, I entered my first position right here. And then the market did go up a little bit. And then it pulled back all the way down on me. And the first trade ended up hitting my stop loss. So I was like, damn. But I realized where I messed up. I didn't wait for the pullback. So in the future and going forward, if I'm going to take a trade that is switching trend, right? I'm going to wait for it to pull back. And if I'm going to take a trade in general, your best setups are going to come from you waiting for it to break and then pull back. Like we want that structural base break and we want the market to prove to us that it's actually going to go that way. That way you avoid hitting stop loss in XYZ. Obviously, some of your trades will still hit stop loss, but it's just having that extra confluence, having that extra reason as for why you're getting into the trade. So there's that. And then after that, what I did was I said, okay, cool. Let's see what happens within the next, like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. We'll see what happens. Let me see what the market wants to really do. So I waited a bit and I said, okay, cool. Let me see what the market wants to do. I had switched down to the 2 minute time frame and I was really just watching to see what price would have done. And I waited for price to get into this area. So 21,825 was my entry. So I entered about here and there was no drawdown for this entry. She pushed up. She still pulled back a little bit right here. Right back a little tiny bit. And then she pushed up again. And as you can see, the market pulled back a little bit and then it pulled up here again. So the reason why I entered this trade was because over here, we have the change of structure. So number one, over here, we had the change of structure. Number two, we had the pull back. The first trade was just because I figured I was going to miss out. And yeah, I'm not doing that again. The first trade was just a breakout, right? So I caught the retest / the pullback here. And then I entered right here for this particular trade. And then I ended up getting out right here with a 1 to 3 risk to reward, which made back the money that I did lose on the first trade that I took. And then obviously my take profit, as you can see over here, if you look towards this side, there is there's bearish fair value gaps. And basically, just like I said earlier, right? Price usually likes to play from zone to zone / area to area. As you can see over here, we played around here, and we came up, right? Price usually likes to play from zone to zone. So I knew, okay, cool. If we come into this particular area, it's going to have a very, very hard time playing off of these fair value gaps. This is the same fair value gap that was on the 1 hour time frame. I'm not too sure if you guys remember, but the one we were looking at earlier, this is the exact same one. Because as you can see, this was at 7 a.m. So this is that really, really big fair value gap. It's going to have a hard time breaking it. So I said, okay, cool. And plus I am playing zone to zone. So 1 to 3, I risked 25 points to gain 75 points. So that was my trade for that day. And I wrote in my journal, like, this will probably break eventually. But my goal wasn't to catch the whole move. Like, yeah, the whole move's nice, but your goal is just to secure something and get out of the market. So I secured this, and oddly enough, right, as soon as we hit take profit, the market came back down and it started chopping around. We came back to retest that zone at 11:15 a.m., 11:16 a.m. So if you wanted to enter a second position, you could have entered here as well and then taken the market up also. Let's see what that would have looked like. Yeah, it would have still been structurally sound, 1 to 3 risk to reward, and you would have exited the trade at 11:32. So like a 16-minute trade. And then you can see the market started to toy around again, and come back to the exact same area to play off of. But that's basically that. And then I'm just going to show you what this looks like on SPX, so you can basically get a grasp of why I did not take a trade on SPX today. They do usually move the same / adequately, but yeah, I was just like, I ain't doing it. SPX had the same potential move, right? Yeah, SPX had the same potential move, same zone, same concept, but basically, let me break this down for you so you can get it into a better perspective. And I figured I might as well put it side by side. This is SPX. This is NAS100. I don't know why it's on the daily. We're going to change it to the 2-minute as well here. Same structural basis. And like even this will help you like differentiate which pair would be more like better / essential for you to trade, right? So over here, as you can see, they basically kind of moved the exact same way, right? But this setup, obviously I wasn't taking the setup here. I was waiting for it to break its zone potentially. So over here, as you can see on SPX, SPX had a harder time breaking this potential zone, and it kind of just chopped around. Didn't really give me that sense of structure until we hit about here at 11:15. So 11:15 would have been your trade on SPX, and your trade on NAS100, as you can see, NAS was just a lot smoother here. This would have been your 1 to 3 risk to reward. For SPX, I risk 5 points to gain 15 points. She would have given you a hard time, or 10 points to gain 30, right? She gave you a really hard time. She gave you a really hard run for your money. And sometimes that's really not what I like. I don't like it at all. If you like it, shout out to you, kudos to you. But personally, I liked the way that NAS moved a lot better. So that's why I ended up taking the NAS trade. And as you can see, I'm going to show you the exact same thing on SPX, but on the daily. So you would have had the same fair value gap on SPX as well. It's the same one here. We pushed off of it. We still maintained that same level as well. And then if you came down to the 30-minute and the 5-minute, you can see how it was playing. Obviously, could you have taken the trade over here at 9 a.m.? Yes, you could have. But I usually wait for market open at 9:30. So that would have been right here. And she basically just played around this area and didn't give you a structural sound entry. So I chose to not take that trade. based on that basis. And then I'm basically just going to show you guys what I would have done otherwise, right? So say we were still in a downtrend, then I would have ended up taking a trade towards the opposite side for a short, right? So say, for example, this didn't happen. We didn't have a change of structure. I would have taken a trade towards the downside here, whether that be on SPX or whether that be on NAS100, right? We're going to put main risk. So risking 10 points to gain 30 points, which would have potentially worked out. I don't know, but I would have waited for the market to break structure, right? Break out of this and create a lower high, sorry, a lower low, and then pull back to basically show me signs that it wants to actually continue dropping. So something like that. Obviously, it's not going to look as clean as that most times, but specifically kind of like this, where it pulls out, comes out, just like I showed you earlier with the trade with NAS100, but basically for it to pull out and then pull back into an area, right? Create a structurally sound bias as well, and show me like that it actually wants to continue in the downtrend. And as always, right, you can use a trend line as well. I believe I went over this in my last video. I'm not too sure, but basically you can use the trend line as well, right? This just helps you see as well, okay, cool, we are in a downtrend, but did we break trend, right? Like, can we stay going like this? Basically, in order to continue going down, you want to see a series of lower highs and lower lows. So I would have waited for the market to create a lower low somewhere, wherever it chooses to end up, pull back, and then I'm looking for the drop. So that's pretty much going to be it for this video. That's my trade recap. And hopefully you found it helpful. Hopefully you learned a lot from this video. Definitely leave me a thumbs up if you did. And don't forget to subscribe. And yeah, let me know what your biggest takeaway was down below. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.